Salam, we are standing in the bazaar of Tehran, and the year is 1850.
Most people living here are Muslims. You can see Muslim architecture behind me.
This is Tehran in 19th century. Oh, all the clips in this video are created with the help of advanced AI. Let's go into our video to learn more about this historical city.
Picture this: a small town, mud walls all around it, narrow, dusty streets inside, a busy bazaar in the middle where people are buying and selling everything from spices to carpets, donkeys and horses walking through the alleys, women carrying water pots on their heads, men sitting outside tea houses smoking and talking. And behind all of this, these giant snow-covered mountains just sitting there in the background like a painting. That is Tehran in 1850. A quiet, ordinary little town that nobody outside of Iran had really heard of. And right now, you're standing right in the middle of it. Every single visual you are watching right now has been built using advanced AI technology. We have reconstructed this city as it actually looked, street by street, decade by decade. So you can see exactly how Tehran went from this small, dusty town to one of the biggest and most dramatic cities on the entire planet. And trust me, what happens to this city over the next 150 years is the kind of story that is almost too wild to believe. We are talking about kings who traveled to Europe and came back completely obsessed with making Tehran look like Paris. We are talking about a revolution so powerful that millions of people poured into the streets and changed everything about this city in a matter of weeks. We are talking about missiles falling on the city while people still went to school and to work the next morning. We are talking about oil, spies, protests, and a city that kept growing and growing no matter what life threw at it. If you love history and you want to see something truly extraordinary, stay right here. And before we dive in, please subscribe to our channel right now. Every week, we bring a city's history back to life like this, and you do not want to miss what is coming next. Hit that subscribe button, and let's go. So here is Tehran in 1850. The city has a wall going all the way around it. A real wall, made of mud brick, with tall towers at the corners and big gates that open and close every day. When you walk through one of those gates and into the city, the first thing you notice is how narrow everything is. The streets are not much wider than a hallway. The buildings on both sides almost touch each other at the top, which actually keeps the streets cool in the summer. Everything is made of the same material, mud brick and clay, which gives the whole city this warm brown color. In the morning light, with the mountains behind it, Tehran looks genuinely beautiful in a very simple, ancient kind of way. At the center of the city sits the bazaar. This is the heartbeat of Tehran. It is loud, it is colorful, it is packed with people from morning to night. Merchants sell silk, spices, dried fruits, metalwork, and livestock all under one roof. The smell of saffron and grilled meat mixes with the smell of animals and leather. The sound of hammering metal, haggling traders, and the call to prayer echoes through the covered passageways. This is where Tehran does its business, makes its deals, and tells its news. And then, right next to all of this ordinary city life, sits the Golestan Palace, the home of the Qajar kings. Step inside those palace gates, and you are in a completely different world. Tiled courtyards decorated with thousands of tiny mirror pieces, painted walls, fountains, gardens with rose bushes and fruit trees. The kings of Iran are living in real luxury here, while most of the city around them is dusty and poor. The Golestan Palace still stands in Tehran today, and you can still walk through it. The man who first starts turning Tehran into something bigger is a king called Nasser al-Din Shah. He rules Iran for almost 50 years, from 1848 to 1896. And he is a fascinating character. He travels to Europe 3 times: London, Paris, Brussels, and every time he comes back to Tehran, his head is full of ideas. He looks at the grand boulevards of Paris and the gaslit streets of London, and he thinks, I want Tehran to look like that. So he gets to work. He tears down the old mud walls around the city and builds new, bigger ones. The city doubles in size almost overnight. Wide new streets are cut through the old neighborhoods. A new city square, now called Tuapkhana Square, is built with proper paving and official buildings around it. For the first time, Tehran starts to have a shape that looks like a real capital city. Government buildings go up. A new post office. A newspaper. The first photography studio in Iran opens right here in Tehran. But here is the other side of this king. He is selling off his own country to pay for all of this modernization. He gives British and Russian companies the rights to run Iran's telegraph lines, its fishing, its banking, basically handing pieces of Iran's economy to foreign powers in exchange for money. In 1890, he sells the rights to Iran's entire tobacco trade to a British company, and that decision causes an explosion. By 1906, Tehran is boiling with anger. Ordinary people, shopkeepers, religious scholars, teachers, students, are done with kings who make deals with foreign powers behind closed doors. Mass protests break out across the city. Thousands of people flood into the grounds of the British Embassy in Tehran in a massive act of protest. The streets of the capital are packed with demonstrators day after day. The pressure is so great that the king agrees to give Iran a constitution and a parliament, called the Majlis, for the very first time in Iranian history. This is a massive deal. Tehran becomes the center of a whole new political energy. Printing presses run day and night, producing newspapers and pamphlets. People stand in the bazaar, debating politics openly. New ideas about freedom and democracy are spreading through the city's coffee houses and streets like fire. Tehran is not just a capital city anymore. It is becoming a city with a political soul. In 1921, a tough, no-nonsense military officer named Reza Khan grabs power. By 1925, he crowns himself the new Shah of Iran, starting the Pahlavi dynasty. And this man has a plan for Tehran that is bigger and bolder than anything the city has seen before. He basically decides to rebuild large parts of the city from the ground up. The old winding alleys of central Tehran are demolished and replaced with straight, wide roads that go from one end of the city to the other. Proper government ministry buildings go up. Serious, solid, European-looking structures made of stone and concrete. Tehran starts looking less like a Middle Eastern town and more like a mid-century European city. The buildings are getting taller. The streets are getting wider. There are cars on the roads now. Not many, but they are there. Reza Shah also makes a decision in 1936 that shocks the entire country. He bans women from wearing the veil in public. Police officers are ordered to physically remove veils from women on the street. Then, in 1941, British and Soviet forces roll into Iran during World War II and force Reza Shah off the throne. His son, Mohammad Reza, becomes the new Shah. Foreign soldiers are now walking the streets of Tehran. The city that had been transforming so rapidly now has a completely new and uncertain chapter opening up. In 1951, something extraordinary happens. Iran gets a prime minister named Mohammad Mossadegh, who tells Britain that Iran's oil belongs to Iran's, not to a British company. The people of Tehran go absolutely wild with celebration. Mossadegh is the most popular leader Iran has ever had. His face is on posters all over the city. People chant his name in the streets. By the 1970s, the city looks completely different from anything it was just 30 years earlier. Tall concrete and glass buildings are going up in the northern parts of the city. Wide multi-lane roads carry thousands of cars. Department stores, cinemas, restaurants, and hotels line the main streets. The wealthier neighborhoods in North Tehran have tree-lined avenues, villas with private gardens, and boutique shops selling Western goods. In 1978 and 1979, the streets of Tehran become the stage for one of the most dramatic events of the entire 20th century. Millions, genuinely millions, of people pour into the streets demanding the end of the Shah's rule. Every single day, the protests get bigger. The city is completely taken over by the sound of crowds and the sight of people marching shoulder to shoulder as far as the eye can see. On the 16th of January, 1979, the Shah gets into a plane and leaves Iran forever. On the 1st of February, Ayatollah Khomeini, a religious scholar who had been living in exile, lands at Tehran's airport. Iran becomes an Islamic republic. And Tehran changes overnight in ways both big and small. The city that had been trying to look like a European capital for over a century suddenly looks like something completely its own. By the year 2000, Tehran is a city of 12 million people. It sits 1,200 meters above sea level, with those same Alborz Mountains still watching over it. The one thing that has not changed in 150 years. In a century and a half, this city went from a quiet, mud-walled town that most of the world had never heard of, to one of the great cities of the planet, shaped by kings and revolutions.